Motion carries. All right, the very next thing is our certification statement before we go into closed session. Could somebody please read the certification statement?
So I'd like to make a motion pursuant to Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia. I move that the board go into closed meeting for the purpose of discussing the following specific matters. Number one, Section 2.2-3711.1, discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of personnel, specifically to discuss the personnel matters for September the 12th, 2022, to include appointments, termination, resignations, substitute appointments, substitute reappointments, coaching stipends, and sponsor stipends. Number four, Section 2.2-3711.4, discussion of personnel matters not related to public business, specifically for release from compulsory attendance for religious exemption. And number 19, discussion of plans to protect public safety as it relates to terrorist activity or specific cybersecurity threats or vulnerabilities, and briefings by staff members, legal counsel, or law enforcement, or emergency service officials concerning actions taken to respond to such matters or a related threat to public safety. Discussion of information subject to the exclusion in subdivision 2 or 14 of 2.2-3705.2, where discussion in an open meeting would jeopardize the safety of any person or the security of any facility, building, structure, information technology system, or software program, or discussion of reports or plans related to the security of any government facility, building, or structure, or the safety of persons using such facility, building, or structure.
Phew. We've had a motion to go into closed session. Could I have a second? It's been moved and seconded that we go into closed session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. We are in closed session.
Test 1 2 3 test. 1 2 3 ABC. There's still volume coming out of the speakers. Okay.
Did he come through Zoom?
I'd like to welcome everybody to our September Madison County School Board meeting. We've just come out of closed session, so we'll start with our public meeting, but the first thing that we have to do is to certify our closed meeting. So if I could have the certification statement read, please.
Whereas the Madison County School Board has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by this school board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Therefore, be it resolved that the Madison County School Board hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, 1, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification applies, and 2, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered.
Ms. Patterson, would you? Yes, please. Oh, yes, could I have a second, please?
I second.
Ms. Patterson?
Mrs. Collier,
I certify.
Mr. Myers,
I certify.
Mr. Sheets,
I certify.
Mr. Wingate,
I certify.
Mrs. Allen.
I certify. The next thing on our agenda is the pledge and the moment of silence. We hope you'll join us for both of those. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Thank you. The next thing on our agenda, we have 2 action items. The first one is personnel matters, and we have talked about these in closed session. So if I could have a motion to approve the personnel matters, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the personnel matters for September 12th, 2022, to include appointments, terminations, resignations, substitute appointments, substitute reappointments, coaching stipends, and sponsor stipends as presented.
May I have a second?
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the personnel matters for September the 12th, 2022, to include the appointments, terminations, resignations, substitute appointments, substitute reappointments, coaching stipends, and sponsor stipends as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries. The next thing on our agenda that we discussed in closed session is the approval to release from compulsory attendance for students 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 for the 22-23 school year, specifically for religious exemption as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the release from compulsory attendance for students 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 for 2022, 2023, specifically for religious exemption.
Could I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the release of compulsory attendance for students 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 for the school year 22-23. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries. Next thing on our agenda is the consent agenda. Could I have a motion that we approve the consent agenda for August the 8th, 2022?
So moved.
Okay. Could I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda for the August 8th, 2022. The consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries. The next section on our agenda is a section for recognitions, and the first one is the Senior of the Month.
So this month is our first Senior of the Month for the 22-23 school year. And just a reminder for anyone that's unaware, the Senior of the Month program showcases a graduating senior, one each month during the school year, and recognizes them for their academics, their extracurricular activities, and their service to others. Each Senior of the Month is recognized at a board meeting, and then at the end of the year, we'll bring all the Seniors of the Month back together, and then they will have an opportunity to recognize an educator that's had the greatest influence on their education while at Madison. So our first Senior of the Month is, here comes Miss Wenham to announce.
Can you guys in the back hear? No. I don't think it's on. Maybe. Do y'all think it's on?
I can talk really loud. There we go. I think that's better. All right, so good evening. Thank you guys so much. I just wanted, before I start, this has been a wonderful start to the school year. Our senior class is amazing, and we've just had such a positive start at Madison County High School, so I thank all of you and all the community for that. So tonight, it's really my honor, and it's crazy to see this young man sitting up on the stage right now because Carter has had me as a principal all 4 years of high school, so it's really cool to see that progression when you have a student enter in ninth grade and now he's a senior. So it is my honor to introduce you all to Madison County High School Senior Class President, a member of the MCHS football team, the voice of the daily announcements at MCHS, member of the Principal Student Cabinet, and game announcer for many of the MCHS athletic events, but also the Student School Board Representative in this month's Senior of the Month. Without further ado, this young man is known to all of us as Carter Reese. Carter has demonstrated a great amount of pride for Madison County High School since he walked through the doors of MCHS. He always wants to be a part of the solution in making our school a better place, including the academic, social, and emotional experience for all students. It's truly impossible to convey Carter's solid character and his abundance of strengths in this couple of minutes tonight. But I know that through this time serving as a student school board member, his integrity and ability to inspire others will be apparent to each of you. Carter excels as a student leader, athlete, mentor, community member, and friend. He is a student who I always see helping others, whether it be mowing grounds of a local church, volunteering at community events, or general checking in with any staff member to provide assistance or service. During the summer, Carter attended the Virginia State Police Youth Academy and the Rappahannock Electric Leadership Conference with students from Virginia and surrounding states. In summary, there is not one single ounce of doubt in my mind when it comes to the future success of Carter. It is my hope that Carter one day returns to this community and continues to share his talents and gifts to generations to come. Thank you, Carter, and congratulations.
I did want to say as well, congratulations to Carter for being our student representative, and we're all looking forward to working with him. And I haven't caught his eye yet. Congratulations. We're glad you're here.
And the Employee of the Month is from the high school as well. So Ms. Wenham's going to introduce them.
And this is probably a surprise to her, but I just asked her to come to the school board meeting tonight to support me. But I am going to ask you to come up. So Mrs. Kaylee Ruth Pearson, will you please join me up here? In just 19 days of school being in session and as a new employee to Madison County High School, Mrs. Kaylee Ruth Pearson has made a significant impact on our school culture. As principal, my days are made better through each interaction with her, as she is always positive, open-minded, and solution-driven. This is just the beginning of the school year, and already she has covered 19 classes due to teacher absences, which means she has roughly been in a classroom with 70% of our students enrolled at MCHS. Each day, regardless of what she's assigned or asked to do, she does it with excellence, integrity, and excitement. Her job title is Positive Behavior Support Instructional Assistant. This job was formerly known as ISS teacher, but we thought it deserved something better. So I can't ask for a better word to describe positive than Kaylee Ruth. She could not be a better word to describe her. If there are no students assigned to in-school suspension, Mrs. Pearson can be found working in classrooms supporting students, laminating items for teachers, creating athletic programs, mentoring students, supervising lunch shifts, and as already mentioned, substituting for classes when teachers are absent and there are no substitutes available. Ms. Pearson is also the varsity cheerleading coach, a college student pursuing a degree in education, and an advocate for providing foreign exchange students with a Madison County High School experience. This year, Mrs. Pearson is a host mother to one of our MCHS students who is an exchange student from Italy, and it has been admirable observing her put her heart into ensuring that this young lady is safe, secure, and most importantly, feels supported and loved here in Madison County, Virginia. Mrs. Pearson, thank you for making the days at MCHS even brighter and helping us create a culture for all students and staff that is inspiring, safe, and supportive. Most importantly, thank you for choosing Madison County Public Schools as your employer. It's gold.
Thank you, Kaylee Ruth. We appreciate everything that you're doing, and from everything that was listed, I can't imagine that you have any time to sleep, so we appreciate everything that you're doing for us. Does anybody have any other comments? Okay. The next thing that we have are staff reports, and we do have a report today. Dr. Jones, our assistant superintendent, is going to present for you an instructional report to include an update on SOL scores, an overview of each school's character education program, and an overview of curriculum and instructional activities that embrace American citizenship.
I'm actually going to get started with the presentation with the character education programs.
You're going to do that
Yes,
one?
for that part, because that's a
Okay.
continuation of a discussion that we had at the August 1st retreat when we were talking about schools having and teaching rights, responsibility, and respect. So if we can get the presentation pulled up. Thank you, Mr. Pate. Okay, and next slide. So this is just going to be an overview of the programs offered at each of our schools, beginning with the primary school, where they focus on being responsible, being safe, and being respectful. So they do teach lessons on these three key factors, but such things at the beginning, especially when kids are starting there, they teach kids how to act like in the classroom, the cafeteria, the playground, the hallways, like what's the protocol? What is it that we need to do? So what does responsibility, safety, and respect look like when we're in those areas of the building? They also have school-wide assemblies, and in those assemblies, it's part of their bucket filler program. So the students are awarded for positive behavior, and then that's reinforced throughout their school days. Next slide. Some of the programs they participate in is the National Bullying Prevention Month, Unity Day on October 19th, and Character Counts Week, October 16th through the 22nd. They do Random Acts of Kindness Week, February 14th through the 20th. It says kindness is highlighted. Oops. Kindness is highlighted during the morning announcements and is featured in the school counseling lessons that they have. And they do use Second Step as their character education program. The Second Step program focuses and teaches kids how to gain confidence, how to set their goals, how to make good decisions, and how to work with their peers, whether it's during playtime or just like in group projects. So that's part of Second Step. Okay, at Waverly Yao, they do Be a Star. They show determination, they take responsibility, they act safe, and they respect everyone. Next slide. So they have that posted throughout their building, and the teachers all teach what each of those things look like and what they mean. They can get a STAR form, which is a positive referral from any staff member. And then they recognize students at grade level assemblies at the end of each 9 weeks for their participation in that program, but also for their academic achievement and their attendance. Okay, next slide. At the middle school, they do the Show Your Blue. So that's be respectful, learn every day, understand your responsibilities, and encourage everyone. So the first week of school, the teachers go over these expectations. They give them examples, teach them what it looks like, practice these things, like what does this look like when we're going to the restroom, in the hallway, how we're behaving in the cafeteria, how we're behaving at recess. And then next slide. They also participate in the October National Bullying Prevention Month. They do Unity Day on the 19th. That's when everyone wears orange and talks about that. Character education, they do character development lessons. They do that through their morning Wake Up Wetzel program. They also do that through their homeroom teachers. And they do the Show Your Blue cards for positive behaviors, similar to what's done at Waverly with the stars. And then they give out awards each month as well. And then at the high school, next slide. During the 2021 school year, the high school put together a committee, and they worked on their vision, mission, and their core values. From this work, they came up with the 4 core values that you see on the screen, and they use these values often to reinforce with the students in like all during the day in all the classes, not just through homeroom. Next slide. Just shows examples of what they showed the students during their grade level meetings. So this year they're focusing on integrity. Administrators met with each grade level at the beginning of the year and reviewed the overall Mountaineer Way. And then they talked about these core values and what they look like at the school, but especially the focus on integrity for this year and how to make the best choices even when no one is watching. So in addition to the core values, the high school implements curriculum from the Character Strong, which consists of common lesson each week that's provided to students during the Mountaineer morning meeting in their homerooms. And all teachers and the students receive the same lesson to do. That's provided through the counseling department. In order to reinforce what it means to be an inspiration, the high school began a school-based recognition program last year, which was made possible by the community and parent sponsorships that recognizes students going above and beyond to inspire others. So staff recognize students with an Inspiregram, and the kids can take their cards to the principal's office where they're recognized at the end of the week and their names are put into a drawing. So similar programs, but all different age appropriate for each school building. But we just wanted you to be able to hear from each school to know like how they tie in.
Okay, so now I will jump in with SOL released scores. We do anticipate that we are fully accredited based on our 3-year average, and the 3-year average comes from scores from 2017-18, 18-19, and 21-22. That's the 3-year average that has helped us be fully accredited. Our schools are working hard to help our students overcome the learning loss that has occurred over the past few years during the pandemic, and we're confident that we can get where we need to be pre-pandemic and even surpass that. What you're seeing on the slide are the state average pass rates. This is all grades, and so what you want is to be level 1. And so the third column shows you what scores you need to be level 1 at a school division. That's the desired goal. So across the state, reading for all students was 73%, writing 65%, math 66%, science 65%, and history 66%. In reading, the goal was 75%, and then math and science, the goal was 70%. Next slide. Just to back up a little bit, the General Assembly passed legislation that has added growth assessments. And so our students in grades 3 through 8 in reading and math last year added an additional fall assessment, and this year we'll have a fall and a winter assessment. These are shorter computer adaptive SOL tests that show us growth over the course of the year. Spring remains the traditional SOL test. The growth assessments in fall and winter are a little shorter. And so schools are using that information to help drive instructional decisions for individual students as we get those scores back. Next slide. And so I'm going to show you our scores. There are 3 columns. The first is all students in the content areas. The second is a raw pass rate, just pass or fail. The third is a pass rate with student growth, which means that in reading and math in grades 4 through 8, if a student did not pass the SOL but showed growth from a previous SOL assessment, they're counted as a pass. So for example, in reading all students, our raw pass rate was 52%. When you add in those students that show growth, our pass rate was 82%. In math at Waverly, raw 50% with growth 85%. In science, 55% raw pass rate. History, 45% raw pass rate.
Can I ask a question? When you showed the state rates a minute ago, were those raw pass rates?
We believe they were raw pass rates, that's correct.
So if you compare our rates to the state rate,
We are below.
we're significantly below.
We are below.
At Rulio? Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Wetzel Middle School, reading all students, 58% raw, 67% with student growth. Writing, 39%. Math, 45% with 76% with growth included. Science, 50%, and history, 56%. Madison County High School, all students, and again, there's not the growth rate at the high school level. Reading, 82%, writing, 67%, math, 70%, science, 52%, and history, 56%. And so the next slide is what's next. So we have work to do. We are confident. We have a lot of things in place. We are focusing on individual student growth. Our administrators, teachers, and staff are using the data from last year and from our growth assessments that we're giving right now to determine each student's level of progress. We do use the VTSS framework, the Virginia Tiered System of Support. And what that is there's always been a need to support students who are academically behind. The VTSS framework is designed to accomplish that. We know that we've had disruptions and lost opportunities to remediate skills, and the gap between students who are already behind and their peers has grown. And so, as we've listed in this document, we're implementing a lot of strategies to support struggling students. In VTSS, a majority of the students will get what they need from their classroom experiences. Those are our Tier 1 students. But there's a small group of students who need more. And those are Tier 2, and they do receive additional area and remediation interventions where needed. And then there's a Tier 3, and those students need even more intervention and more support, and our schools have the framework to provide that. And so those students get even additional support, time on task. They're pooled, and they have, each school has specific remediation processes that they use, and they're going to share more about that with you next month. You'll hear from the principals specifically what they're doing with VTSS and how they're remediating. All right, what's next? Next slide. So yes.
Dr. Jones, before
Yes.
we go on, I
Sure.
think all of us are concerned about the pass rate. Is there any way as we go along for us to do testing so that we know that our students are on the right track to do better?
So that is really 2 things. One, the student growth assessments that I just described are telling us that because they're taking an SOL in the fall and then again in the winter. So we're administering those right now. And so that's going to give us an idea of where our students are and give teachers and principals an idea of exactly how to target each individual student's needs. So those are being administered right now. We'll get those scores back and be able to use those. And then again, in the winter, we'll do the same thing.
So is there any way to bring those scores to us when they come back?
Mhm, we
and
can.
So that we can see where they left off and what they did
We
last
can.
year? And also, if you're giving them now, it would be a good thing for us to see where we are.
Yeah, we absolutely can share that
Thank you.
information. Sure.
Any other comments, questions before we leave? All right, thank you.
Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, and so what else are we doing? Professional growth. We have 16, maybe 17 teachers taking the letters training. It's a course, language essentials for teachers of reading and spelling. And so that is helping us in our literacy area. Principals and instructional coaches observe classrooms. They provide specific feedback to teachers. Coaches go into classrooms and model best practices. Our principals and division instructional leaders are also doing walkthrough observations in all schools and giving feedback. Our principals and central office staff attended the Department of Ed Office of School Improvement Summit in July about continuous improvement, and all schools are working on a continuous improvement plan. And again, those will be shared with you all next month. Each school has a representative attending the Department of Ed's English Institutes in October and November. So a heavy emphasis in reading, but in all areas as well. We have ongoing professional development opportunities in many areas, and our teachers attend a lot of variety of professional development. Do you have any other questions before I jump to the next topic? That's a lot in a short amount of time. And again, our principals next month are coming. They're going to share more detailed SOL data with you on subgroup scores and on their plans. So you'll hear much more specific information next month.
Will this data be coming in before the first parent-teacher conferences so that we can sit down and share information at the parent-teacher conferences? To let
Yes,
parents know whether-
the scores for these fall growth assessments come pretty instantaneously. They're back quickly, so that will be in for parents to hear about.
Thank you.
When I looked at the scores, it's kind of like a three alarm fire in some ways, and I know you all share. I don't know the answer. What can we do, and what can the board do? How can we help? Obviously the pandemic response was devastating to children, but it seems like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like our scores went even down farther. I mean, why do you think that is? Do we know why? I mean, I'm sure that things happen just one year, it's 1 year. But I'm trying to figure out how we can help. What can we do so not...
I think we don't panic. We have to remember last fall, if we go back to this time last fall, we were still quarantining people for 14 days through contact tracing. Kids were staying home repeatedly. I mean, there are so many factors that went beyond just that 1 year. And I'm not blaming it all on that or, excusing it, but I do think we shouldn't panic. I mean, we're here and things are so much more normal. And we've got so many things in place. We have after school, the program that's going on with that. And I think when you hear from principals, you'll hear a lot more about what they are doing. And I think that'll help. And Ms. Graham, if you have anything else. Is that what you were going to say?
I guess I'm not, certainly for me, speaking for myself, I mean, it seems like, so I appreciate that. As the budget comes next year, I mean, I think we ought to be, sure, I know you, I'm talking to the choir, I know, but being creative about how we use money, hiring educational coaches, tutors, things like that. I know you're looking at that, so I'm just saying, I think we as a board ought to think about that, because all this stuff is true, but for something, it seems like our schools are, everybody else had the same quarantine stuff going on too, and I don't know what it is, but so I don't know, something to be, we want to help, and money, and obviously the most biggest thing we can do is probably ask our board for more money or something, but I'm just saying, but figure out some way to help in this matter, because it's not all on you all. I don't know the answer.
Testing. Speaking of funding, the ESSER grants are ending. So we do have some, key support positions that we are funding through that. And people are aware they were temporary grant funded. So that is something to start talking about, is whether or not that's something we want to keep in the budget.
What's the timeline for that? And do you bring that to us at some point during the school year?
We'll start talking about the budget, usually November. We'll give you our timeline, December. We already start talking about it.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next topic from me is curriculum and instruction activities that embrace American citizenship. We had said we would pull together a list of what we do, and we have that for you tonight. The next few slides are just a list of the SOLs that cover civics at each grade level, and I'm not going to read all of that. It's not necessary, but it's there. And so there are civics SOLs in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and then Mr. Coiner wrote some things that they are doing. They have biweekly school assemblies that focus on character development and American citizenship. And if you've not been to one of those, maybe talk to Mr. Coiner and go. First time I went to one, it was pretty touching. The children sing patriotic songs all together, and it's just kind of gives you cold chills. So they have collaboration with American Legion, Post 157, contests, assemblies. They do mock elections in both first and second grade. They take field trips to local government offices and community support facilities. They have community helper days where they have guest speakers, or community helper day, and the students dress up. That's another fun one to be at the primary school. It's adorable. And then they have monthly cultural highlights. And then in second grade, they have a Write Your Own Law project in the spring. At Waverly, the next slide also shows you that there are civics SOLs in third grade. Fourth grade is Virginia Studies, and several of those SOLs are about our democracy. And then Waverly Out also has an SCA election, which mocks our democratic process. Doesn't mock it, that's not the right word. It simulates our democratic process. Mock did not sound good. Tours of Madison County Courthouse in May. They do a Constitution Day art contest with the American Legion also. They have a Veterans Day writing and art contest, and fifth graders interview a veteran as a project as well. And at the middle school, the courses also touch on our democratic process, and eighth graders take civics, which is, primarily about our American citizenship. The middle school has an American Legion Veterans Day essay contest. The Daughters of the American Revolution present on the Constitution. A representative comes to school and presents to the eighth grade. The Daughters of the American Revolution Award is given out each year at the eighth grade graduation to a student who exhibits good citizenship. Students decorate the school for Labor Day and Memorial Day with American flags through the art classes. Just the general school-wide expectations of Show Your Blue is about being a good citizen. Next slide. The VFW gives a Veterans Day presentation. There's a Veterans Day assembly, which was planned by students under the direction of a teacher. There's a Constitution Day celebration, and civil discourse is taught as a part of the MAG Connects program. And there's a Constitution Day poster design contest. At the high school, in the economics and personal finance course, they talk about citizenship. There's Virginia and U.S. history and Virginia and U.S. government. And then the high school has an election day page program where our students can go and work the polls in conjunction with our Madison registrar. And they do that each year. There's an assembly for high school seniors with our elected government officials where they talk to them about rights and responsibilities once you turn 18. There's a simulated senior class election and campaign speeches where they have voter registration forms available to students. They do a Think of Veteran recognition wall. Community service experiences through the government class are required. They do a blood drive. They have sports teams and individuals who sign up to help with Madison Day here in Madison in May. Next slide. There's a government day where seniors shadow a local government official. They also have the student council, class officers, and the student's principal cabinet, which all simulate our democratic process for students to be elected. And then there is a civic seal for diplomas where students have to complete the U.S. and Virginia history and the government courses with B or higher, have good attendance, no discipline infractions, and complete 50 hours of voluntary participation in a community service. And then the military comes and recruits at our school, so students do see the military. And Those are the items that the principals had shared along with the SOLs, and so I hope that gives you an idea of some things that are happening related to citizenship in the school. And that is everything I have for you tonight. If you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer.
I have one question. Could you go back one slide? I was going to ask a question about the service thing. On the community service experience, when I saw that Madison Day thing, it was, what a fantastic, I don't know who's responsible for it, what a fantastic idea to sort of do that and to promote that. And we talk about community partnership and all that stuff, and how awesome that is. And I was thinking, I think just for us to think about is, do we require, maybe we require community service, community service 10 hours, 20 hours, I don't know what it is, or a project before graduation. But it sounds like it's kind of happening. I mean,
Right.
is that government class mandatory for everybody? Does every student have that? Okay.
Graduation requirement?
So is that, what kind of requirement? Is that like a 1 hour, 10 hours, do you know? I'll put you on the spot, but I was curious, I just been curious. Yeah, I think it's always been a strength of Madison. So it's awesome to be doing that. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? All right, this takes us to our public comment section. If you'd like to make a public comment, if I would ask you to please come and state your name and where you live in Madison County.
Hello, my name is Russ Clamber. I'm pastor of Oak Park Road Baptist Church. I live in Brightwood, and I've been there for 13 years now. And Benjamin Franklin in 1787 at the Constitutional Convention, when it was failing, said that he believes that God rules in the affairs of men. And I believe God rules in the affairs of this assembly as well. You've got a great responsibility on you, and I thank you for that. I appreciate the school board members as well as the assisting staff. And if I may, I would like to ask God's blessings on what you do. Our Father in heaven, we do thank you so much for your mercy, your grace, and your interactions with the affairs of men. Father, I pray that you would be with our county school board. You have given us 3 institutions through your word: the family, the government, the church, each accountable to you for the affairs which they oversee. Father, I pray that this governing body, these elected county officials who oversee the teaching of our students in this county, Lord, that you would give them wisdom, that you would give them the answers to the questions they have. I pray, Father, that you would help them and the teachers to teach. I pray the students would learn, that the SOL scores would climb dramatically because of the wisdom that you give. I pray, Father, that you would use them in a mighty way to set an example, not only in our part of the Commonwealth, not only in the Commonwealth itself, but across our country, I pray that Madison County would be a leader in the school systems across our nation of what it means to educate properly our young people, that they might have integrity, that they might have ethics, that they might be leaders of a godly nation. In Jesus' precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Lisa Davis, Locustdale. Just changed a lot of what I wanted to talk about since you showed the SOLs. I highly recommend, if you haven't read, the May 2022 Virginia Department of Education report. It starts to talk about lower expectations, wider gap, and lack of transparency. In fact, the state education changed its accreditation requirements in 2017 to de-emphasize grade level proficiency in reading and math. And despite the gaps between the state and national proficiency standards, the State Board of Education voted to lower the proficiency cut scores, meaning how many correct answers it takes to demonstrate proficiency on the standards of learning test in math and reading in 2019 and 2020. You all really need to get this report because it compares the National Report Card, the National Assessment of Education Progress, to our Virginia SOLs. And they show, in fact, that only 38% of Virginia fourth graders and 33% of eighth graders were proficient in reading, compared to what was just shown up here in the 70s. Very interesting report. You all need to get it. Next thing, I keep reading more and more about schools are getting blinded by graphic material, and this board and school superintendent need to figure out how to stay on top of this and determine what the standards are to use for a review. Again, I keep seeing this in the news all the time. I also would ask to please investigate having a formal yet simple means on each of our 4 schools' main page that addresses any volunteer needs. In many cases, it is a word of mouth or not clearly found. Just make it standard. There are a lot of citizens with talents that want to be involved. The Virginia Department of Education 2122 sent out to all division superintendents encouraging all schools to reflect and commemorate Patriot Day, 9/11, and it's supposed to be celebrated this week. They also encourage flying the Commonwealth's official Patriot Day flag called the Freedom Flag. There are 10 symbolic elements to the Freedom Flag. If we do not have these for each school, we need to budget and get them for next year. Finally, the Virginia General Assembly introduced House Bill 113, public school buses displaying decals with "In God We Trust" and/or "One Nation Under God" on buses. Now, General Assembly accepted this. They passed it to the House of Education to further work on it. And that committee did not even advance it for further voting and passage, and that's unbelievable. That's our state educators. So I ask all citizens, you need to contact Virginia Delegate March and address this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis.
I'm Mike Sharman from the Novum area of Madison. So whatever field of endeavor you're in, you always want to look at your competition, and you also want to look at who's doing what you are doing successfully. So I've handed out a report on homeschooling in Virginia and nationwide. If you turn past the cover page, you'll see that the first underlined thing mentions home education is the fastest growing form of education in the United States. In other words, your competition. Then you look at success. The homeschoolers test at 31 to 37% higher than the national average. I was comparing, and I'm not sure how they did the numbers, but from the SOLs that we had heard earlier, we look at the state SOLs that we had versus our average. There's not a single one that were higher than the state. We're significantly lower than the state on everything. So then you flip over to the next page, and you see where I've asterisked. We always talk about we need more teachers. But if you look at that first asterisk, the parents' level of education or the parents of the family's household income are not notably related to the academic achievement of the home-educated child. And remember, they score 31 to 37% higher. And it doesn't matter how much money that family makes. It doesn't matter what education that family has. Then you look at the next one, whether homeschool parents have ever or never been government or certified teachers is not notably related. So if you're looking at who you need to hire teacher aides. Why? Because why do homeschool kids do better? Because they have more one-on-one teaching. They have somebody looking at, are you great at science and really crummy at reading? Well, let's really help you get your excitement about science and get you at least competent in reading, and vice versa, et cetera. Flip over to the next page. How does this pan out as studies show in adulthood? Oh, it's all well and good if we do well as students, but how does it work in adulthood? So the two that I asterisked is homeschoolers are more likely to succeed, go to college and succeed in college than other educated private and public school students. And they're more politically tolerant of others. So whatever endeavor that you're looking at, whatever endeavor you're in, you want to look at your competition and you want to see what they're doing that's successful. So if you want to look at a successful model, look at homeschoolers. And then how can you replicate that in the government public school situation, which I think you can. But you have to be more individual. That doesn't mean that you have to have highly expensive graduate trained specialists. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Conway Faulkner, I live in Madison.
Can you guys hear her in the back?
Can y'all hear me? Hello, hello, hello. Now can you hear me? Conway Faulkner, live in Madison. Basic little thing to bring up. On the special and emergency school board meeting adjustments. One, where it's asking for it to take 3 or more members. Is that including the chair or not including the chair?
It's 3 board members.
Does it, so that includes the chair?
The way it's written, it's 3 board members, and there's 5 here, so there's 3 board members.
So you're saying, yeah, all right. And so why are we taking out the first part, that the chair can't call? Isn't that the reason that there's a chair?
It is my intent to not have the chair unilaterally call a meeting.
So you want to make sure that there's not actually a leader of the school board?
No, she can call the meeting. She can't call it by herself. She has to have 2 other members request that meeting alongside.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, how are you? My name is Holly Walker from Madison. I grew up in Madison. My kids now are going to Madison. Going back to the grades and things, I think it would be a good idea to maybe some way do a survey to the parents and find out what we're thinking, why our kids' grades are so low. Just for instance, last year in the school, my son had many substitutes, never had a real teacher because they were out on medical leave, things like that. I didn't really know this till almost half the school year was gone. So I feel like that, that did not help them at all with that. And then my other son, he has a 504 plan. I have to constantly keep on that, make sure due to high anxiety, get that from his mama, unfortunately, but for high anxiety and basically overthinking. And I find, with being teachers, I don't really see a lot. Yes, we have counselors, school counselors, but we need to realize mental health, stress, things like that need to be part of school and realize some of these kids have a lot going at home, different things. I was an honor roll student. I had to realize my kids are not going to be that way. They are average students that need extra help. I try to help them much as I can, but I'm not a teacher. Of course, I have my full-time job I have to attend to, and I do the best I can. But I found with freshmen in high school, sons going in there, I don't feel for a first email to a teacher, it was really condescending, wasn't really to give my kid a chance to learn what it was to have deadlines and things, and for me to get them. So it's very disheartening as a parent. And I don't get responses back from school, and to be condescended as to a parent, I can only think what that teachers makes that student feel like, if they're making me feel that way. So it's very important that, teachers are allowing, especially freshmen, to realize to get in the groove when you haven't even been in school a month, to give them chances that may need to be done or catch them up on things that you need to, instead of locking them out and say, well, you just get an F. I'm just not very happy right now with the high school just starting out. So, but that's all I have to say as a parent. We need more surveys to us so we can tell you what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Tim Duggins, and I live in Madison, and I just want to say thank you. Thank you for all that you're doing. Thank you for all the effort and energy that you put into what you're doing. And you have a ton of people that are behind you, that are supporting you, and appreciate your investment. And we have a group of people that pray for the administration, that pray for you guys, and that pray for the school principals and the coaches, and I just want to say thank you. And we believe that prayer matters, but your investment matters, and that's all I got to say. Thank you very much. You're doing a great job, and we appreciate you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to make a comment? If not at this point, we'll go into the next section, which is business information. And the first, did I miss something? Okay. Public comment. Did I miss something, Charles? Okay. The first thing on our business information is information from Ms. Patty Seal, who's our supervisor of school nutrition, and she's going to provide us with an update on the school nutrition program for the 22-23 school year.
Hi, I'm here to give you a brief overview of what's been happening in the school nutrition program since the shutdown in March of 2020. I don't know if anybody realizes, but we bounced back and forth through 5 different USDA programs with all different regulations and meal patterns in the past 2 years. We're currently running 3 of those programs right now. When we shut down, we immediately implemented the summer food service program from March 2020 to August 2020, and we distributed 160,000 plus meals during these few months. We operated the summer food service program for school year 2020-2021, and this allowed for universal free meals at schools as well as distribution of meals for virtual students. 376,000 plus meals were served and distributed during this school year. For school year 2021-2022, we implemented the Seamless Summer Option, which is a branch off of the National School Lunch Program, School Breakfast Program. Universal free meals were served in person only. Summer food service program was operated during summer 2022, and we served a total of 8,400 meals during this past summer. For school year 2022-2023, we turned back to the National School Lunch Program and School Breakfast Program. 2 of our schools were eligible to participate in the CEP program, which is the Community Eligibility Provision. This allows for all students in eligible schools to eat free breakfast and lunch. Madison Primary School and Waverly Yale are eligible to participate in this program this year. Middle school and high school are back to the pre-pandemic with paid meals and free and reduced based on direct certification and income-based applications. In order for a school to be eligible for CEP, they must have an identified student percentage of at least 40%, meaning free and reduced based off of SNAP, TANF, or Medicaid through social services on the April 2022 report. Madison Primary School was at 50% identified students. Waverly Yale was at 45% identified students. Middle school just missing at 37%. They're just a little low. And the high school was at 35%. And remember, this is identified students based off of SNAP, TANF, Medicaid. When a school becomes eligible for CEP, they're automatically eligible to participate for four consecutive years. Currently, the ISP at the high school is at 39%, and the middle school is at 36% for the 2022-2023 school year. And these percentages more than likely will rise throughout the school year. And also new for this school year is the CACFP At-Risk After-School Meals Program. It's the Child and Adult Care Food Program. As of July 1st, 2022, all divisions in the state of Virginia are required to operate the after-school meals program if there is scheduled after-school enrichment. And this is a requirement for schools that are at least 50% free and reduced or reach 50% by using the ISP times the 1.6 method. All schools in Madison County are eligible and meet the criteria to operate the after-school meals program. It's exciting news for all schools because we're able to feed every child that comes through free after-school meal. So far, we're off to a great start. Last week, the primary school served an average of 35 on enrichment days and only 7 on the homework day. Waverly Yale has been averaging 95 meals per day, and the high school has averaged 50 a day. High school is also servicing the middle school as well. Today, the Madison Primary School served 52 students, Waverly Yale served 124 students, and the high school served 105. So you can see the numbers are steadily rising. This program will last throughout the entire school year as long as there's scheduled enrichment in place. The menus are posted on the school nutrition website. And I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any. Otherwise, that's all I have for you tonight.
I had a funny story. I was coaching my little girls basketball team, and one of my players came up to me. This was in the winter time, and she said to me, she told me she had the best meal ever at the school at the other day. She told me that, and it was so sweet, and just a recognition of all the lots of things that go on that you don't get thanked for. But thank you for doing that, and it impacts a lot of children.
And one thing else I wanted to hit on was. Starting in the summer of 2020, the Virginia Department of Social Services started issuing pandemic EBT cards, and that was for any free and reduced child that was enrolled in the school system. And throughout the 2020-2021, they were sent out to anybody that was free and reduced. And then 2021, or it also went out to anybody that was into a CEP school. So Madison Primary was CEP, so every student that's on free, in the Madison Primary School this past summer was issued a pandemic EBT card. And throughout 21, 22, Amanda Reynolds worked very diligently alongside of me to come up with a file. We had to send it to the Virginia Department of Social Services a list of students that missed any school for COVID quarantine. So they were issued EBT cards monthly based off of quarantine from COVID as well. So it's an ongoing thing. And like I said, the last pandemic EBT card was issued August 25th. And as far as I know, that was the last one, but who knows? They are more than likely going to come up with another one, but we'll see.
I just wanted to say thank you as well, and I do have a question. First of all, as far as all the grants, you've done a great job in trying to apply for and get the grants to help our children for the after-school program too. And I know because it's a federal program, that one of the things that they look at is how many of our students get free and reduced lunch. If we're right on the borderline to qualify and people turn in applications and they are granted, is there any way for us to reapply for that for the school year or?
Community eligibility?
Yes.
It's only one time per year. It's in April
Well,
of
okay.
every year.
So that was just a question that I had.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to also say thank you. I know the past couple years, your workload has dramatically increased due to the extra meals and all the the grant work and stuff to get all this stuff taken care of. So thank you.
The next item under business information is the annual review of the crisis plan, and that is Mr. Drew Eanes, the family support worker.
So each school year, I'm tall, so I gotta move this up. Each school year, during the summer, before we start school for the new year, we work on updating our crisis manual, which is given out across the division to principals and first responders and so forth in the community. So we worked on that. We updated that crisis manual, all the necessary improvements we needed to do that. We collaborated with first responders, fire, EMS, sheriff's office, principals to come up with what can we do to improve safety in the division. We feel like we have done a lot of advancements in safety here at Madison, and that we feel that our schools are safer this year. From a personal standpoint, I have 2 kids in this school, and I feel comfortable sending my kids to school every day because I know of what these advancements in safety that we are working on and that will be happening throughout this school year. We can't go into details in a lot of those safety issues due to it being safety and security in the division, but we do ask you to approve the school crisis manual and the updates we've done, and we're excited about what we have coming to Madison for safety. And I'll answer any questions if you have any, to the best I can.
Anybody have any questions? Mr. Eanes? Thank you, Mr. Eanes. The next item is a new policy, and, well, it's not a new policy, but it was a policy that has been modified somewhat. And this policy, which is BDDE, which has to do with rules of order, was proposed by Mr. Sheed, so I will let him explain that to you.
Yeah, it's just simply stating that since we voted to adopt Robert's Rules of Order, that our policy reflects that as well.
Anybody have any questions about that? This is just for information. We would vote on this next month. No questions, no comments? So the very next one is also, how to get caught up, a policy that was proposed by Mr. Sheets, and it is BDE, special meetings.
BDB.
And what did I say? Let me put my glasses on. All right, BDB, special meetings. And I'll let Mr. Sheeds explain that to you.
Basically, what we have here is a modified policy that's just been changed, a few things. Before it was a special meeting policy, it also has an emergency meeting provision in it. I've defined emergency and special meetings, because they're not the same thing in my eyes. Mrs. Faulkner, you made a good point, and you gave me time to think about it, and I've got an answer for you. So it is the chair lady's job to call a meeting, and what I'm trying to alleviate is we not have one person just calling meetings when it's unnecessary or when the majority of the board believes it's unnecessary. So we're looking for at least 3 board members, which can be Mrs. Allen, Nita, myself. That can be the 3 board members to request a special meeting. And then at that point, Mrs. Allen can proceed and call that particular meeting. That meeting would require 72 hours notice for the public, but there are no notice requirements for an emergency meeting, and emergency meetings as defined is potential injury to students, personnel, damage to facilities, hurricanes, tornadoes, that type of thing. So we want to make sure that when in an emergency situation that we can act quickly. So that's basically the gist of it. Any questions?
This is just, excuse me, this is just for information purposes. This will go to our October meeting, and at that point, we will vote on it, and there will be some discussion at that point as well. So,
And Ms. Faulkner, I think I would like to add in that where it says special meetings are held when requested by 3 or more members and will be called by the chair. And then, of course, it says after that, emergency meetings are held when called by the school board chair. So we make sure that the school board chair still understands that is the person that calls the meeting. I don't want you thinking that one of us can just randomly call a meeting. We put our request into the chair.
thank you. On to the next topic for business information. It's the 22 to 27 long-range plan draft. So I'm not really sure who is going to, we just wanted to show it to you, is that what we're doing?
Correct. It's because there's public hearing tonight. That was just placed on the agenda again if the board had anything they wanted to say.
Yes, I've consistently, every time we've talked about this, asked for all the adjectives to be taken out of priority number 2. And the ensuring every student, I mean, nothing else matters at that point. It's every student. Every student needs to be capitalized, the whole words, both words. Every student has access to the resources and educational rigor they need at the right moment in their education, period.
And just to kind of explain what's going on, I went through it today and I was reading it, and it looked like that particular part that Mr. Sheeds had mentioned had been taken out or struck. That was what I was looking at. So I looked back and tried to figure out. Anyway, that's up in the air right now because we need to check on some things, because the priorities, not the plan, were voted on back in March. and the priorities were passed with that phrase in it. And we're still looking to find out if we have to do a revote. And if we do, and by changing it, do you need to do a revote? Because in essence, it does change the meaning of priority two. So we're going to be looking into that, because I just saw it today, and I don't know the answer to all these questions either. So I'm not really sure. I hope we'll be ready to vote for it next time, but we do need to check into some things. If we do need to do a reconsider, I need to look up and find out what those conditions are, because I was operating under the assumption, and maybe that was wrong, that if you had to have a vote to reconsider, it had to be at the very next meeting. So if that is the case, and I think it's in Robert's rule, but I did not have time to look it up, we'll have to go back and look at that phrase again. So we're just giving it to you right now as it was voted on, the priority itself, not the plan, but the priority itself as it was voted on back in March. So right now, we just don't know. Just wanted to make that clear to you, too. Any other questions? Anybody? Comments? We will be researching that. All right. Are we ready to move on? The next thing on our agenda for information is advisory committees. And I'm not sure who. Okay. The advisory committees, we have had an opportunity to look at these, so right now, I'm kind of, all right, where, business information type is action, so I'm a little confused about that. That's what so to approve the list, we've had an opportunity to look at those. We will not be voting on this tonight. It is just business information, and I'm not sure who's going over this. Or do we need to just show it?
It's just information.
Okay.
Ms. Patterson just thought she'd even corrected it, but for some reason it didn't save. It should have saved as information, but for some reason it said action. It's just information tonight.
That's what confused me. All right. So we just want to give you the information that these are the members of the advisory committees.
I have a question
Okay.
around
I
that.
don't,
So there's a school board member liaison on the gifted advisory committee, but there's not one on the special education advisory committee and not one on family life. So I wonder, I don't know this, but I wonder if a board member should sit on those advisories to be consistent with the gifted advisory committee.
I have another question. How did you get on that committee?
I don't know. I was just invited to the meeting.
I don't know if you volunteered.
I think, and I'm guessing, but I think these were committees that were set up. I
Yeah,
can't see
I'll go back
Anna's
and look
face.
at the January meeting to see,
Right.
because y'all did some advisory committees. And I didn't go back and look at everybody's names to see if they had included the school board member or not, but I will do that and let you know who's on which one.
Okay.
That'd be great.
That's.
I think we
that's
should be
where-
consistent. So whether we're on them or not I think it's important that we know about the committees for sure and get a report from the committees. But if if one's going to be represented, then all needs to be represented.
Yeah, and you were the alternate on that one. Angela Eichelberry was the primary.
On gifted, yeah.
Yeah, so that's how you got on it.
So,
I'll let you know what the rest of them are.
thank you.
And sort of the same thing, like for instance, on the special education and gifted, there are a lot of parents, but of course they're parents who are the principal and things like that, but parents in that role only. And I wonder if, given our new priority of, partnership with families and stuff, we should think about adding some parents on any committee, but including the family life one.
Little confusion here, mainly because these committees were either appointed or people volunteered for this committee back in January. And so things have changed a little
We have
bit.
the list here, Mrs. Allen.
Ma'am?
I said, we have the list here.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Career and Tech Ed is not on your list yet, but they will be by the time you get ready to go vote. But Career and Tech Ed, people is Mr. Sheets as primary, Mr. Wingate as alternate. Family Life is Mrs. Allen and Mr. Wingate as the alternate. Gifted and Talented, like I said, was Dr. Eichelberry with Mrs. Collier as the alternate. Special Education is Mrs. Collier. Okay, yeah, and that's it.
Mrs. Patterson on the CTE. Mr. Wingate stepped off, and Mr. Myers stepped on that one, so,
On CTE?
yes, ma'am.
He did.
I thought that was CIP, not CTE.
Yeah, it was CIP. Is that what you said?
I'm getting my acronyms mixed up. Yes, CIP.
I think I opened a
I'm
can of
sorry.
worms.
Are you still on CTE then?
Well, I think Damon would be better on CTE too.
Okay.
Yes, I am. Sorry.
And since I'm serving as the alternate, I wonder if we should just reorganize. Like, I'm serving as the alternate on gifted, but there is no alternate. And I don't think there's an alternate to special ed because Angela was my backup on special ed. So we might need to make sure they're all covered with an alternate.
Excellent idea. Let's take a look at that.
And we can vote on that next month.
I think we can probably get it straight.
Thank you, guys. Sorry to be confusing.
You don't want to be on two committees?
And Anna,
I can be on
ask a
two
couple of
committees.
parent
I just wanna have a
volunteers
backup.
for that family life. So I don't have any parents listed on there. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions or confusions? All right. So the next, get my glasses on. The next thing that we have on our agenda is a public hearing on the proposed 22-27 long-range plan. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to come up and make a comment on this plan, please come up to the podium, state your name and where you're from. All right, seeing none and hearing none, let's move on. The very next section is business approval. So the first business approval that we will take a look at has to do with surplus inventory. This is an action item for a vote. And tonight, did you want to say anything about this?
These are just some items that were in a storage facility during the primary renovation and for when the school board office, when we moved our offices to make room for the kindergartners. So it's just some items that have been stored, and they're either the ones that are broken or just going to be thrown out. But if it's something decent, it'll be listed on the state surplus website.
So could I have a motion that we approve the request to dispose of the items with a no trade-in value or obsolete to be declared surplus for disposal or list on the state surplus website? Government deals for sale.
So moved.
Could I have a second?
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the request for disposal of surplus items. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries. The next item under business approval is supplemental appropriation. And what we would be doing is requesting a vote that the Board of Supervisors approve a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $50,721.25. So, Ms. Graham, did you want to say something about that?
Two separate grants that were applied for and we received. The first one will provide bonuses to our nurses. They needed new office chairs, so it's providing them new office chairs and then helping them attend conferences and renewing their license and things like that. So that total came to $20,721.75. And then the second grant was a recruitment and retention support grant that Dr. Jones received for us, and that is an amount of $30,000. Some of it is to be used as like hiring stipends and bonuses, and then a large portion of it we can use for helping teachers or staff members that are trying to get their teaching license, help them pay for some coursework.
This is all not local money, right? We're not asking.
So could I have a motion that we request from the Board of Supervisors that they approve a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $50,721.25?
I so move.
Could I have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? It's been moved and seconded that we request from the Board of Supervisors that they approve a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $50,721.25. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries. The next thing under business approval is to approve the 5-year gifted education plan as presented. Is there any background information that someone would like to provide?
Okay, so the gifted plan for 22-27 has been worked on through the Gifted Advisory Committee over the past year. We met, Nita, last week, 2 weeks ago. We met and just looked at it one more time, and the committee was in approval. It's very similar to the previous plan. Our processes have stayed the same. There are some updates. On page 4, there is a definition of gifted that's been updated, and another change that we are making is we are going to be administering a universal screener to all second graders starting this year, if you all approve this plan, so that at that level, everyone will take a screener, and we can make sure we are not missing students, because oftentimes, giftedness is hard to detect. A student might be really quiet and shy and they get overlooked, or maybe they're a behavior issue and they get overlooked. It's hard to say. So we are going to start that process, which is best practice. And so we have added that in. We've added in some goals. We'd like to, by the end of this plan, possibly be able to identify students in the arts, in art and drama, theater. So we have some goals in here as well. But again, it's fairly similar. It was just updates based on things that have changed over 5 years for the most part.
Thank you. And I know everybody here has had an opportunity to read it. So as it stands now, could I have a motion to approve the 2027 gifted education plan as presented?
So moved.
Could I have a second?
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion? It's been moved and seconded that we approve the 22 to 27 gifted education plan as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries. And that would conclude our business approval section of our agenda. The very next section are reports, where we tell each other and our audience what we've worked on or been to for the last month. So, Ms. Collier, would you like to go first?
I attended the Gifted Education Advisory Committee meeting, where I met the team and just appreciate their hard work in getting this plan together. I think it's solid. And just thank you for your hard work. Thank the team for their hard work. It was very informative, and I appreciate you guys including me. And I attended a pre-agenda meeting for PREP, Piedmont Regional Education Program, and our board meeting is the 21st. I have to look to make sure, but I think it's the 21st. The 21st, next Wednesday, and I will have an update after that board meeting next month. And that's all I've done.
Thank you, Ms. Collier. Mr. Sheeds?
Last month's meeting, I brought up where the CIP team had met, and we were talking about using a company to do an overall assessment of buildings and basically all the school-owned property of the county, piggybacking on the county's assessment that they're doing for their buildings. This past week, we met with Jeff Fox, who is the representative of this company called Bureau Veritas. The county's on board with it. We're on board with it. He went in detail of how their program works and what they rate repairs that need to be made, how soon it needs to be made, and kind of gives a rating on what the building would cost to replace if we had to build it new. And that's why we have some stuff we need to get fixed sooner than later. Anyway, that was a pretty interesting meeting. Another thing we talked about was the parking lot resurfacing that we've been talking about there, and DEQ was an issue because of ground disturbance. However, because it's a resurface, they finally said, you know what, you don't have to have a DEQ permit, so y'all can proceed. So that's looking like that could happen. The administration building's roof needs to be replaced, and it was brought up, is there any type of a solar roof material that we can use to fix the roof and to gain some electricity? And once they looked into that, there's zero cost advantage to doing that at this point in time. And then we also received like almost $1,000 credit from the electrical work at the primary school. So that was good to see some money come back too. But that's everything that I had here.
Thank you, Mr. Sheets. Mr. Wingate?
Just two items. I spent a lot of time going to football games, footballs lately in Madison, and I just want to kind of commend the spirit and, you know, the numbers of the boys who are playing is way up, and that's not by accident. I mean, I don't know exactly what the coaching staff and the support and stuff is. There's a real positive vibe, certainly in the football program, and I think in a lot of the sports programs, and so it's been fun to see that, and so I just want to thank all this hard work, all those coaches and all those hours. We don't give them very much stipend money, so it's a real gift to a lot of children. So I want to thank them, and I want to say publicly commend them. The second report is this afternoon. I had attended a meeting with Ms. Graham, Dr. Jones, and Dr. Graham, Dr. Jones, and the school librarians, and we're starting to talk about sexually explicit materials, and making sure that our children are protected from things that we want to protect them from. And so we're starting a process to both abide by the new law that requires a model policy for sexually explicit materials in schools by January. We've got a form. We've got to come up with a policy by January. So we're going to start working on that policy as a board and vote on it by December. I've had some concerns about library books, and so I've done some time reviewing that, and so I've identified some books that I think may be problematic. in accordance with this new policy and Madison values. So I just want to appreciate the librarians and the administration come taking those things seriously and working at it and looking at it and trying to do it in a fair, transparent way that takes into account all opinions and does the right thing for the taxpayers, parents, children of our county. And so we'll be working on that. I just want people to know we're working on that and taking it seriously, and we'll do that over the next couple of months until we vote on a policy on instructional materials with sexually explicit content by December. And that's my report.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I've, like Mr. Wingate, have been attending these football games, and it is apparent the amount of effort and work that these young men are putting in to the sport, and just the numbers that are out on the sidelines and are I would dare say close to doubled from last year. It's a significant increase, and I think it has a lot to do with the effort and the positive reinforcement that we're getting from our coaches and just believing in the kids, and the kids actually believing in themselves, and it's only good for Madison. And it's just we watched our sons are playing on the JV football team, and they have been dominating every team that they've gone on the field against, and that's the way Madison football is supposed to be. And I'm just so happy to see it come back.
Thank you. Mr. Reese?
There we go. Currently at the high school, events are starting to ramp up as we've gotten deeper and deeper into the school year. The main focus right now is homecoming. Next week, we begin the Spirit Days, and honestly, I have to say that I have seen more people excited about the Spirit Days than I've seen in a long time. I think we've got a good lineup of Spirit Days, and I think that they're all going to be popular among the students. It kind of culminates on Friday with the homecoming pep rally and the homecoming football game, and then on Saturday with the homecoming dance. So those are kind of all the events we have going on at the high school right now, but as we get deeper into the year, those will start to become more and more common.
Thank you, Mr. Reese. Ms. Graham?
Testing. I just want to add one thing, kind of piggybacking off the events that everyone's been attending. I was able to go to the marching band showcase on Thursday night. They had William Monroe, Culpeper, and Rappahannock, and then our band performed their field shows. So it was kind of fun because the bands got to dominate the field. They're usually rushed on and off, so it was really cool. They took their time, they got to set up, and I can just say I was definitely partial, but our band sounded amazing. They were polished, and they just sounded great. They had their portion of the show that they shared. It was just together, and the kids were taking it so seriously, and it sounded like watching a college band. They did a great job, so I just wanted to point out that we definitely recognize that. They do a lot of hard work. You see them in the mornings during first period out there practicing, and then you see them after school as well. Wanted to share that.
Thank you. And I just wanted to share a couple of things that I've done last month. I went to the Blue Ridge Virtual Governor's School meeting in Zion's Crossroad, and that is a meeting that is a regional meeting because there are lots of counties and lots of superintendents involved in that, and we have a new coordinator, a new, what's her title? Director. We have a new director for that program, so basically it was getting to know her and getting to know the changes that she has made, and I think she'll make some really positive ones for our children. The next thing, I went to the election of the senior class president last Thursday, and it was more fun to watch the seniors' speeches, to listen to them. I think we've got a lot of future leaders on our hands that are willing to stand up and tell you what they stand for, and then the students afterwards voted and it was very professionally done. They all had a ballot. They all voted. They put it in a ballot box. They were counted, and then it was announced that Mr. Reese was going to be the class president. The other thing I want to commend Ms. Wynnum on is for any student that was 18, they did have applications there that if they wanted to register to vote, they were encouraged to get one of the applications and get that going so that they would be ready for the next election. So I thought that was really good for all the seniors that were 18. And then I also attended the meeting with the librarian, and I thought it was very well done. The librarians are just as concerned as everybody else is in trying to do their best for the children of Madison County, too. So that was a really positive meeting, I thought. And Mr. Wingate touched on, we will be working on our version of a policy for this sexually explicit. It was supposed to be with instructional materials, but we're going to try to expand it a little bit so that it's very clear to everyone what we see as being the parent's right to know about sexually explicit materials. And there will be a special meeting shortly because we have to take what the state sent